Hey, what's going on, guys? Alexander here, head hand-to-hand instructor at Tate no Sume, teacher of Ryu no Tate. All right, today I want to discuss what Ryu no Tate is all about. Right? I was having this discussion with one of my good friends and co-teachers. Really, he's a great guy from another martial art from a lifetime ago, but when I started developing Ryu no Tate, he's right there in the thick of it with me, giving me suggestions and helping me teach my new guys. So we got into a discussion on what Ryu no Tate is, why I called it that. And Ryu no Tate is Shield of the Dragon, right? If I'm running the translation right. If I got it wrong, oh well. But I'm gonna have to go back and do a little bit more research on that one. But I'm not changing the art because I like Ryu no Tate. All my stuff says Ryu no Tate. Anyway, Ryu no Tate is Shield of the Dragon. And Shield of the Dragon, right? What is a dragon's shield, right? A dragon's armor, its shield, its cloak is its skin, right? Real thick hide that's impervious to basically everything. Right? So the idea is that when you train in Ryu no Tate, you have the mindset that even completely naked, you're still protected. Right? So you have your art to defend yourself with, to guard yourself, to protect yourself. That is your shield. Your skin is your shield. Right? And the philosophy of Ryu no Tate is kind of, or not kind of, it is all-encompassing, right? When people ask me, "Hey, Alex, what martial arts do you study?" I look at them and I say, "All of them," right? And they just kind of smile and nod, and they leave it at that. I don't elaborate. But when they ask me, what do you mean? And I say my style focuses on categories of martial arts and how you train them. Be damned. Right? Looked at the arts on, when YouTube became a thing, because I existed before YouTube. You can tell by my little horseshoe here, hairline, that I've been around for a little while, right? Before YouTube, it was school to school, style to style, person to person, right? And now with YouTube, you can get exposed to nearly everything, and you'd see the fights of this art versus this art, this art versus this art, this art versus this art, right? And at some point, I drew the conclusion that it was never art versus art. It was always a man versus a man, or a woman versus a woman, or I guess nowadays a man versus a woman, in some instances. But when you see that, you see two people fighting, and it doesn't matter what school they come from. All the fights look pretty much the same. Outside of boxers with boxers and style comparisons, right? Within a certain rule set. When you had just everybody free for all, it all just looked like human combat, right? So that influenced my training and my style quite a bit, along with a few other things, but I'll get into that another time. But the idea of Ryu no Tate is that we take each art individually and train them individually to add them together as a collective, right? So this is the way I see it. There are 5 martial arts, endless amounts of styles, but only 5 martial arts when it comes to melee combat, right? There is pugilism, or punching, right? And that's all the skills and abilities that I need to effectively strike somebody with my hands, okay? And that's not just striking. I'm talking specifically just striking somebody with my hands, right? So all my spear hand strikes, my punches, chops, palm strike, what have you, anytime I'm hitting somebody, not just hands, but arm in general, right? So if I'm hitting somebody with my wrist or a forearm or an elbow or a shoulder check or something along those lines, that is all in the realm, as far as Ryu no Tate goes, it's all in the realm of, let's say, fist skill, right, or hand art, okay? And there are ways of applying techniques, generating power that are characteristic to your hands and arms being the instruments of transmission of said power, right? So how I throw a straight or a hook, right? Straight or hook, the way I generate that power and the point with my arm, where I, how I connect, when I connect, is kind of encompassing, not encompassing in and of itself, but is very specific to my hands, right? What I mean by that is, we'll go to the next art, right? That is the kicking arts, right? So I have my hand art and then my foot art, and that's everything that encompasses attacking somebody with my leg, and that's everything from hip checks, knees, shin kicks, and then hitting with certain parts of the feet, right? All of those take a certain level of flexibility, strength, skill, balance that don't necessarily translate into punching art, right? I mean, it can strengthen the punching art, but I can float, I can be on my toes, I can be dancing and throwing a jab, right? And then if I want to throw a heavy right, I got to sit down on that for it to be effective, right? My legs, on the other hand, if I'm dancing on my legs, I need those 2 points of contact on the deck sometimes, right? And if I have one leg up and I'm kicking with it, and I can be dancing on the other foot, hopping or gliding, right? That severely limits my mobility, right? Which doesn't happen as much when you're punching, or the same ways, right? And the ways I generate power and my methods or modes of transmission or limbs of transmission are different, fundamentally so, than from punching, right? So kicking and punching are two different martial arts, right? Those martial skills, right? It's a very specific skill to be able to kick. It's a very specific skill to be able to punch. And when you add those together, that's where you get your striking side of the house, okay? So when we train those skills, we think of them in those terms, right? So I don't care what style you come from, right? What methods you have of training said skill. If you're training to punch or hit somebody with an arm technique, you're training to hit somebody with an arm technique, right? We absorb it all. Take what you can, and then take a little bit extra, right? Just so you'll have something to pass on to somebody else, right? Because not all techniques work for everyone, in my opinion, right? If I have techniques 1 through 10, and I only find use for techniques 1, 2, and 3, well, I've got 4 through 10, right? Well, what am I going to do with those? Well, somebody else might find use for those, and that goes into teaching, and that's another video for another time. Okay, so that's the striking side of the house. The grappling side of the house, right, is the other side of the coin, right? We have wrestling, right? And when I say wrestling, I mean all the techniques you're going to utilize to disrupt, upset someone's balance, right? So all my throws, all my takedowns, all my body manipulations to affect someone's balance negatively is what I consider wrestling, right? So you would use, weight, leverage, all the tricks of, like, say, judo, or just outright wrestling. But it's not just grappling with somebody. I mean, specifically trying to uproot somebody from one position, moving to another, i.e. a takedown or a throw, right? So in judo you have kazushi, tsukuri, and kake, right? So kazushi and tsukuri, right? I'm gonna break their balance, and then I'm gonna invade their space, right? Those are the parts of wrestling I'm talking about. And then kake is you apply the technique, right? So coupled with that is what we call seizing, right? And seizing is utilizing pressure and leverage to upset, or excuse me, to damage somebody's skeleton, right? Musculoskeletal, right? And strangulations, right? So I'm taking my hands, or I'm taking whatever part of my body, and I'm doing things like tearing muscles, ripping tendons, hyperextending joints, breaking joints, not with a strike, not with any kind of strikes, not any, I'm not hitting with my hand, I'm not hitting with my foot, but I'm using pressure shearing forces to snap limbs, tear muscles, like I said, destroy tendons, right? But then also strangulation, so cut off blood, cut off air, or nerve attacks where I'm just using pressure to do that. Right now, you can do that with striking, but that would be in striking stuff, not seizing. Right, so you put all that together, and I got my punching and kicking and my wrestling and my seizing. That gives you both sides of that coin. Your grappling and your striking. Right now, that fifth one is kind of a standalone. Right, that's where all your weapons come into play. Okay, so your blunt objects, your edged weapons, projectile, chemical, nuclear, biological, CBRNE. If you're in the military, you know what I'm talking about. MOP level 4 gear sucks. The weapons come into play there, and those are standalone. Those are skills in and of themselves, right? So you can have 0 of the other skills and have your weapon skill, and still be effective, right? Essentially, until that becomes what's the word I'm searching for? The weapon has a malfunction or become no longer effective. Then what are you left with? Well, you're left with your other 4 skills, and if you're not up on them, then you've got a little bit of a problem, right? And all of this is really just a matter of range. You're learning how to control, or you're learning to understand and function within certain ranges, right? So weapons, there's just really anything you utilize to strengthen your melee attacks, right? So if I specialize in wrestling and grappling, that'd be great. And then if I had like a bodysuit that was covered in like grip tape, that would suck for the other person. They would get nothing but what is that? Abrasions. I haven't tussled with them, but yeah, weapons are standalone. Right, and because they're utilizing a foreign object, some object you're going to use, right? So to recap on that, you have your punching skill, you have your kicking skill, you have your wrestling skill, you have your seizing skill, and then you have all of your weapon skills. Those combined kind of create the core of what Ryu no Tate is, right? So you take your sections of training as kind of self-contained subsets, right? And then we learn how to link them all together to become our dragon's armor. Right? I hope that made sense, right? So I guess I'll see y'all next time, and stay tuned. Or keep coming back, and we're gonna try and get some videos out where I'm gonna demonstrate some of the things that I'm discussing. So I think last time we spoke about a grappling drill that I was working on. I've made another drill that's still being developed. I'd like to get those out. Like y'all check them out. Tell me what you think. All right, I'll take it easy.